welcome to Senior Aspects. I'm your host, James Kelly, and my guest today is Dweh Toeque.
Toeque, yeah.
Toeque, okay. And we're going to be talking about senior vouchers, and you're running for political office. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and who you are?
Definitely. Well, my name is Dweh Toeque. I'm actually originally from Los Angeles, California. I moved to Vegas. I've been here now for 5 years, and I moved here for business purposes. And during this time, I've learned a lot about the city. I've learned some of the things that most people don't probably care about, but are important. Mm-hmm. So it kind of inspired me to run, especially when COVID hit last year, and a lot of people were confused about the virus and how it spread, and it got me motivated to pivot towards journalism. So I made sure that I took a very detailed approach to figure out like what's the right information, what's the wrong information, and really disseminate between those two things so people won't be confused.
So what are you running for? What political office?
So currently I'm running for city council in Ward 6 for Las Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah. The election is going to be in November of 2022, so I'm starting early.
There you go.
So I can get my name out there.
That's right. Yeah. Name recognition, that's what it's all
important.
about.
Yep.
Yeah. So why did you decide to run?
I decided to run because of what happened to George Floyd. It really shook me to the core as a black man, just seeing that happen and seeing how it took so long for his family to get justice, and it rubbed me the wrong way. So I say we have to do something different. We have to have better accountability when it comes to policing, and just police need to feel like they can have conversations with people instead of just using force. So there's a huge disconnect there. So I did a lot of research, and I found out there's two programs that started back in the 90s. One called the 1033, another one called the 1122 program. What these programs did, they gave a blank check to a lot of police departments all over the country to them to buy militarized equipment at a discounted rate.
Okay.
So this is about $7.3 billion annually out of all 50 states that we're paying out of our pockets as taxpayers. Vegas alone spends around $655 million last year in their budget just for the police, versus Portland being a much bigger city. They only spent a third of their budget of what we spent. So it just didn't make sense. Why are we overspending so much when it comes to policing here? It doesn't make sense. So I was like, you know what, let me look at the possibility of running, which I did last year. I looked at all the obstacles I have to face, looked at how I would want to market myself, looked at, my strategy, and then I put it all together, and I've been hitting it. So this month is when I kicked off the campaign, and it's been a very fun experience so far.
Well, one of the things I like is that you're not one of those who's complaining about something. You're actually trying to do something about it.
That's it.
Because I think far too often we all sit around and complain about this and complain about that, but we don't do anything about it. So, someone's got to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So and I'm willing to step up to the plate to do that. I'm willing to look at what is the issue, and start moving towards a solution. Because, like I said, you can easily just say, oh, this is wrong. This person's not doing their job. This person, I could easily say, oh, the woman that's currently in that position, she's not doing this, not doing that. But what am I going to do?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why I presented my plan, which is called Budget Your Values. It's a very detailed plan. It talks about child care voucher programs. It talks about, also after talking to you last week, you really sparked my mind when you said we should also include elderly people, which made a lot of sense because some of them are on fixed incomes and they really are struggling. So a voucher program would be very helpful at that time in their life when they can actually live a good life and not be so stressed out because they can't take care of themselves. So
tell us a little bit about the voucher program. What are you coming up with? What's your idea behind it?
So with the voucher program, we're essentially going to look at the 1033 budget for this state and say, okay, how much can we allocate towards creating a voucher program to work with existing organizations that already help the elderly, that already help children, and just give them the capital they need so they can actually, when people come in with a voucher, they can actually get the services that they need.
So you're not going to recreate a new program, or you're not going to create a new program. You're going to help the programs that are out there now.
Exactly. And then if we need to create something that's not there, then we do that. But I'd rather not build a new house when I have an existing house. Just,
right.
Just make some repairs. So if there's someone that's already well versed and is a specialist and knows how to spend the money properly, I'd rather give it to them and let them make sure, and then also check in and make sure things are going smoothly. Make sure there's not any holes in the plan and whatnot.
How do you know what programs? And here's an example of what I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about. There are different organizations out there in the United States who are charity programs, let's say. And sometimes when we give to them, oftentimes those programs, 60 to 90% of their budget goes to administrative services.
Correct.
So a great deal of that money is not reaching the people that they're saying they're going to help.
Correct.
Obviously, it's reaching some.
Right.
But there are a few organizations out there that only take 10 to 20% for operating costs, and the rest does help the needy or the ones that they're trying to, get into that sector.
Right.
How do you plan on vetting those? How do you know which ones or which organizations would need those voucher programs, or how can you discern who needs it and who doesn't?
Well, I would pull their P&Ls and just seeing where the money is going, like how it's being spent, and then once I look at it, talk to the operation officer, whoever that person is at the organization, figure out, okay, what are you guys spending your money on? How is it being spent? And then once they've passed those tests, then we offer them, we bring them into the program and see what they can do to help the people in the city.
One of the things I think that we need to talk about here, because you're running for city council
In Ward 6, yeah.
in Ward 6, can you explain to the listening audience exactly what the responsibility of the city council is? Because we know of all these governing bodies and we hear of all these people, but we really don't know what they're doing.
Exactly. So that was what my issue was last year. So I was like, where does the power really lie in government? So we always hear about the president every 4 years. We hear
Right.
about the House of Representatives, which is every 2 years, and then the Senate every 6 years. And I was like, okay, but that's high level stuff. It's like, I want to know who's actually dealing with the roads, who's dealing with the libraries, the school boards. So I actually found this very educational video that detailed exactly how our system works in our country. Like we have townships, we have cities, and different townships may have the police. Some counties don't. It's very like, all depends on like what state you're in. So when it comes to Vegas, we have 6 wards on the south side of Vegas, and then 6 on the north side of Vegas. So it's a total of 12 wards altogether. So, but they also have 2 separate mayors, and they govern on 2 separate sides of the city. So when it comes to the city council here and what they do, they're able to determine how much money is going to be given to the police, how much money the schools are getting, how much money the hospitals are getting, how much money is going to community services. They pretty much can divvy up, and they also create new programs that didn't exist. They can determine who gets permits. They can buy buildings. They can also create programs where they can assign people to run committees to figure out which part of the city needs help for something. There's a lot of power in the city council which I didn't know about until I did my research last year.
Yeah, and I want to clarify that when you're talking about the Senate, you're talking about state Senate and you're talking about state representatives.
Correct,
as opposed to federal.
Correct.
Because that can get
Yeah, it
confusing,
gets confusing,
sometimes
right,
as
yeah,
well.
makes
Yeah, and I've done that in the past too. There's far more state senators than there are
definitely.
federal senators. So, for representing the state.
Correct.
So anyway, so let's. What do you plan? What is your goal in the next 2 years to get you elected? What is your battle plan?
So my battle plan is to just give people my plan in detail. Like I want to actually put out commercials that talk about each part of the plan. Give them a like when it comes to needle exchange program. Like I want to tell people how that would work. What issue is going to be solving, which is getting people to not have to use dirty needles, and also get them off of drugs altogether, and also can help drop the HIV levels, because when your people are passing needles around, you're obviously going to probably get someone that has HIV, and then you're going to get HIV, and it's going to cause more issues, and it's going to put more stress on the city, versus in terms of the hospitals. Now this person go to the hospital because they're sick, and that's costing the taxpayers more money. So it's better to have a needle exchange program where people can go to a physical place, or even like in Florida, they actually have these vans that drive around and they pick up needles that they find out in the street, which has been helping where kids don't step on those needles. It's very helpful when people don't think about it.
Yeah, because I would never think of that.
Exactly. So the thing is, like, most people, and another thing I want to touch on when it comes to COVID. So before COVID, a lot of people were still living paycheck to paycheck, even though they had a job, may have 2 jobs, they still would not be able to take care of themselves. So if we have government programs that can actually take stress off of people, they can actually take the time to not be so stressed out. They can pay their bills. They can maybe even go to start going to school and get a new degree that get them a higher level of education and a higher paying job, which would be helpful for them as well.
So how do you think your voucher program, where is it going to benefit the seniors exactly? What is your idea behind, like, for instance, is it going to be help feed the seniors, take them to the doctors, or all?
All of it.
All of it. Okay.
Any problem they have, we as a country, we have enough money to take care of everybody's needs. We should not be trying to say, well, we'll do this and maybe not do that. No, we have to take care of people. These people have paid their dues. They either worked in corporate America for a few years, or they worked in jobs that were very helpful, like they were firefighters maybe, and maybe they don't have the money when they get older. We have to take care of everybody, so we can't just be picky.
Well, I want to talk a little bit, because you and I spoke last week.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
And one of the things we talked about was sometimes our senior situation isn't always the perception we think it is.
Exactly.
It is a perception.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes we think that, well, if a senior is struggling and they're only living on a fixed income, which is usually Social Security, it's because they didn't plan well.
But that's not the case.
And that is not the case.
No.
And I was a mailman in Atlanta, Georgia for 10 years.
Tell me about that.
And the thing is I saw this firsthand in a community where they had worked for a factory that was in the corner of this one community, all working towards retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it was during the Reagan administration
Yes.
when they were able to raid the trust funds or the 401ks
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. And these people who were working for this retirement, when they finally retired,
It was dried up.
it was dried up. Their actual income, the average check that I delivered, the largest retirement check I delivered to any senior in that community was $88.
Oh my goodness.
So when you factor that into the fact they're just getting Social Security, we talk about how a city sometimes can create a poverty situation.
Yes.
And in this particular community in Atlanta, the city had grown up around them. So they had a choice. Most of them were buying their homes and owned their homes, because I would say about 70 to 80% of that community they were seniors.
Mm-hmm.
So they paid for their home, but now you have a choice. Do you pay your taxes, because the taxes go up, they don't go down? Or do you maintain your home? Well, you try to do both, but obviously if you don't pay the taxes, you're going to lose that home anyway.
Correct.
And as a city like Atlanta, for instance, and even Las Vegas, as it grows, housing goes up.
Yes.
So even if you were to sell that property now in the hub of the city, within the hub of the city, you're not going to be able to afford to go somewhere else and live.
Exactly.
Not really.
Yeah, exactly.
So poverty isn't always something that we think it is. It isn't always something that, well, they didn't try hard enough. That's not the case at all.
No.
So I think that's why we have to look at the seniors and understand a little bit better, or a little more, get a greater grasp of what's going on there with the senior community. And I think that's part of what's wrong with our society.
It is.
We have a tendency to just shun people and go into our own world and forget about what's going on in someone else's or how that happened. And somehow we've got to change that mindset.
And it really goes back to education. Like if we're not teaching social skills when it comes to how we deal with individuals that are having a tough time, we're just going to always look at it like, oh, go make as much money as you can. Anybody that's not trying to make money, then they're lazy, just like push them away. It's like, no, we can't always focus on making a bunch of money. We have to focus on caring for each other, like treating people with respect. If we teach that in our educational system, we're gonna have a much more fruitful people in the future. Everybody's gonna take care of each other. When someone's not doing well, we're gonna figure out how to help them instead of just, they have no value to me, so I'm just gonna push them away. That's not, and that's in all levels of society. And for example, my parents, they came here from West Africa, Liberia, moved to the Bronx back in the 70s during the very heavy drug time with the heroin and everything going there. My dad used to walk home every day with a pipe in his hand just to keep himself safe. And one thing he told me was that experience really showed him that it's important to like really make sure that your community is safe, because he's trying to come home to my mom and my sister, and he doesn't feel safe in his own neighborhood.
Right.
So he had to move and come to Los Angeles. And when he came to Los Angeles, there was a program at what's this school called? Pepperdine University, and they were actually willing to help him and my mom get education, and they have to pay for it as long as they kept a certain GPA. That school was free, and then it changed their entire life. Like they went from working odd jobs to now he was a teacher. My mom became a nurse, and their lives completely changed. And it changed our way of living. We were able to live a little more comfortable, and then it taught me that education is important, and also community is important. Like having a system in the community where someone that's trying to make it can now all they do is get the training, get the education, and now they have opportunities to go, get the job they want, or even start a business if they want to.
I think mentors are very important, and it's kind of what you're talking about is that road to getting there.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't have a community full of mentors, someone who can help mentor in that community, that's where it also falls apart.
Yes.
And it doesn't even matter whether it's a poor community or a middle class community. Mm-hmm. If you don't have the right people in place to help. For example, we have a lot of latchkey kids today because both parents work. Yeah. So, what are these kids doing when they get home? They're on their video games.
Tablets,
they're on the internet doing
Instagram,
who knows
Facebook.
What. Yeah. And I think that we're really forgetting that this is a really not a great way of bringing our children up today. Mm-mm. They're missing out on a lot of educational values that they wouldn't 40 years ago or 50 years ago when I was being brought up.
Yeah.
You had to study.
Right.
You didn't have the internet. You didn't have all these social places to go to, so you really were kind of forced into a study situation in a way. So I think that's one of the things we're missing today, and we really don't examine that enough. What do you plan to do politically to help change that climate?
So I really want to make sure that our schools are funded better. So right now, Nevada itself, in terms of the education ranking, we're ranked D+ nationwide. When I heard that, I was like, that does not make sense. We have a lot of capital in this city. Why are we not funding why are our schools not bursting with money? But and also I'm noticing, I talked to a few parents, they're telling me they send most of their children to private schools. They don't send them to public schools anymore because they don't feel like they're going to get the right education. So we really, it goes back to the 1033 and 1122 program. We really have to look at that budget and start putting. I would put at least $100 million into the schools annually to have them have better training and also incentivize the teachers, because these teachers are struggling as well. Like I would want to raise the minimum pay for a starting teacher to about $70,000 a year. Like give them the money they need so they can feel comfortable and feel like they're not strict. Because some of them are digging in their own pockets to buy supplies for their own school, for their own classroom. They shouldn't be doing that at all. That should be coming from the state, and also some of these parents don't have the money to even give their kids food. So some of these teachers are buying food for their students.
Right.
It shouldn't be this. Like we should not be having to. I mean, that's a good thing that at least they're figuring out a way to use the community, but the government has the power to do more. So
yes.
So we have to be like it has to be a very altruistic way of approaching government. That's how I like to see where we do it, not for the sake of it benefiting me. I do it because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
And that's something that I learned growing up from my parents. Like my parents, they started doing school when they came to America because they saw how the school system helped them. So they say they want to give back. They started a school. They were helping the community. Like my dad, he actually got the first Apple computers at his school and teaching the kids how to use the computers. Like that was a big deal. So we can do the same thing for these schools. Like I want to put more STEM programs in all the public schools so these kids can learn about the different areas of learning, so instead of only learning how to just become an employee. Some of these kids need to learn entrepreneurship. Some of these kids need to learn a trade. We need to give them a lot of different options because everybody's different. Some people are auditory learners, visual learners, and kinesthetic learners. So if you know people learn differently, then you can craft programs that are focused on them and give them opportunity to actually flourish instead of just having one way of teaching. And if someone is not getting it because they're auditory learner or kinesthetic learner or visual learner, then you say, "Oh, this person's not that smart." So we put them in a class that they probably need to be in because it's too much time on the teacher. Mm-hmm. But if we give the teacher in in the school system enough money to where the money is going to the right places. It's giving the teachers a living wage. Some of these teachers actually have second jobs. They're teaching and then they have another job where they're bartending. It's like they should have to do that. They should have enough capital, focus on the teaching, and then they can identify. Then they'll have the wherewithal to identify the students that are not getting the concept and say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna change the lesson plan and make sure that it's geared for this child, and they'll have the time to do that because they know that the government is paying them enough to do that, to be that specialized. Instead of just saying, well, I now have to make sure that they pass these tests. We shouldn't be stressing these kids out with tests. They should be learning how to be tactical because they're so young, so they need to learn how to use their hands a lot, how to speak, how to work in groups. Like that's a more effective way to learn.
What about coming up with a program where students, and there are some programs across the U.S. similar to this, why not come up with a program where children are interactive with seniors?
Yeah,
to where they get credit for helping the seniors.
I like that.
Whether it's go to pick up their medications or buy their groceries for them or help take them to the doctor. Obviously, it would have to be high school age. But, find programs or create a program that is interactive with the school. That keeps the students busy.
Correct.
It gets them credit for helping, outside. Even if it's like if someone maybe wants to go into nursing, where they go and they just sit with a senior in the evening for 2 or 3 hours.
I like that.
And sometimes that interaction, I actually know someone right now that I speak to all the time, and oftentimes it's an hour or two on the phone, even if I don't want to. And the thing is that I realize this is a single person, no children, and they're older, and they just need some form of communication every day.
Exactly.
It's amazing what you can do with someone's mindset when all they do is sit home all day long. They see no one. Just an hour or two conversation, what that can do and how that can change their life.
Oh, yeah.
It actually can affect their health even.
Oh, yes. I've heard that Alzheimer's patients actually do better when they have more interaction with other people.
So maybe you can work on that.
Yeah. I'm open. Like, at the end of the day, Budget Your Values is a plan that is going to keep growing because everybody's values are different. So the more I talk to more people and hear what their values are, we're going to add those things to the plan and make sure that it's equitable for everybody. So everybody has a chance to actually rise up. And then when everybody's doing well, we're going to make sure that we're going to take care of each other more. Because hey, if my neighbor's doing well and I'm doing well, when they're having a bad day, I'm going to check in on them. I'm not going to just worry about myself because when they fail, I fail. When they succeed, I succeed. That's how we got to start looking at living in communities now.
Well, Dweh, we're running out of time, so why don't you tell us more about where we can learn about what you're doing, your websites?
Yes. So currently my website, where it's actually a community-based website as well, you can actually sign up social media. It's www.toeque.com. And all of our social links are on our website. So you log in and you actually become a community member. And you can follow me on Instagram, where I actually post every day, on my Twitter as well. It's all on the website. Okay.
And you can go to senioraspects.com to learn more about this show. You can also go to All Aspects Radio Network. It's a mouthful. .com, and to learn more about the show as well. So until next week, this is your host, James Kelly, and we appreciate you being here today, Dweh.
Thank you.